Once upon a time. The legend of Ekuru. In the heart of Ekuru, an ancient town cloaked in mist, a dark legend lingers, the story of the missing ribs of the dead. It's a tale passed through generations, one that keeps the villagers indoors after dusk. Elders speak of a curse upon the dead, whose souls wander if buried incomplete. Ekuru's people believe that each body must be whole for the soul to journey to Ibilu, the realm of eternal rest. But when bodies began appearing with missing ribs, fear gripped the town. Whispers of a dark force circulated, and mothers mourned, fearing their loved ones were cursed to wander. Among the villagers was Obiageli, a young healer gifted with the ability to see beyond the veil. She'd lost her own brother, Chimika, to the mysterious desecrations. Determined to bring peace to his spirit, Obiageli resolved to find the truth behind the missing ribs. Under the full moon, Obiageli gathered her charms and took her staff, adorned with symbols of protection. She prayed to her ancestors, seeking guidance. Her path took her into the dense, dark forest, where few dared venture. Shadows stretched across her path, whispering warnings. But Obiageli was fearless, driven by her love for Chimika and her need for answers. She believed the desecrations were linked to Azina, a former village priest exiled years ago for practicing dark magic. His name alone evoked fear in Ekuru, yet she pushed onward. She followed strange markings carved into trees, symbols that seemed to pulse with dark energy. The air grew heavy, and the forest seemed to breathe with an ancient hunger. As she drew closer to Azina's hidden grove, Obiageli prepared herself for what lay ahead. Obiageli reached the grove, hidden deep in the heart of the forest. There, beneath an ancient twisted tree, she saw piles of bones, ribs taken from countless graves. And in the center stood Azina, his gaunt figure wrapped in darkness, performing an ominous ritual. Azina's face was hollow, his eyes gleaming with a madness that only dark magic could bring. He chanted, summoning power from the stolen ribs. Each rib represented a spirit bound to him, granting him unnatural strength. He sought immortality, fueled by the anguish of the dead. Obiageli's heart raced, yet she steadied her spirit, calling on the ancestors to grant her strength. She stepped forward, her voice ringing through the grove, confronting Azina and challenging his twisted plans. Obiageli's voice echoed as she chanted an ancient incantation, invoking the spirits of the desecrated. She called upon the ancestors, asking them to rise and reclaim their stolen bones. Her words pulsed with power, a call that shook the very ground beneath her feet. Slowly, spectral forms emerged, glowing faintly in the night. Spirits of the dead, with hollow rib cages, circled Azina, their mournful eyes fixed upon him. The power he had drawn from them was now his curse, turning against him in a final act of justice. Azina's strength drained as the spirits encircled him, his dark magic undone by the sheer force of their suffering. He struggled, but the spirits would not release him. With one final cry, he was taken into the earth, silenced by the souls he had wronged. With Azina gone, Obiageli gathered the bones and returned them to their rightful graves, each burial accompanied by a song of peace. She sang each soul to rest, her voice carrying the promise of freedom and eternal rest to the spirits who had been bound. Ekuru was freed from the curse, but the villagers never forgot. Each year, they gathered under the full moon to honor those lost and remember the sacrifice of Obiageli. Her courage became a symbol for the town, and her story, the missing ribs of the dead, lived on as a lesson in respect for the dead. As Obiageli laid the last rib to rest, a sudden chill filled the air. She felt a familiar presence, her brother, Chimika. His spirit hovered, faint but smiling, free at last. Tears filled Obiageli's eyes as she reached out, feeling a gentle warmth as if he were finally at peace. Chimika's spirit gazed at her with gratitude, his hollow rib cage now whole and glowing. He whispered words only she could hear, thanking her for her courage and sacrifice. Obiageli knew he was ready to move on to Ibilu, joining their ancestors in eternal rest. That night, as Obiageli walked back through the forest, she felt the weight of her journey lift. She had done what no one else dared, restoring peace not just to her family but to the entire village. Her brother's spirit led her safely back to the edge of Ekuru, where the villagers awaited her return. The villagers greeted Obiageli with awe and reverence, calling her Nne Muo, Mother of Spirits. News of her victory over Azina spread quickly, and people came forward to thank her, placing offerings of food, herbs, and gifts at her feet. Ekuru's elders praised her bravery and proclaimed her a guardian of the village. The children gathered around, eyes wide with wonder, as she recounted her journey. She spoke of the power of the ancestors, the strength of love, and the importance of honoring the dead. Her story became a legend, and children grew up reciting the tale of the missing ribs of the dead, remembering her deeds. In gratitude, the villagers erected a shrine for Obiageli's brother Chimika at the village square, where people could leave offerings for those who had passed. Obiageli dedicated herself to teaching others the ways of the ancestors, so the spirits would never again be disturbed. As seasons passed, Obiageli became a wise elder, teaching young villagers the sacred rites and the meaning of respect. She shared her knowledge of herbs, rituals, and the songs that could summon or calm spirits. People traveled from distant lands to learn from her, seeking her wisdom. She spoke of Azina's downfall, reminding the villagers of the dangers of misusing power. Magic is not for the hungry heart, she would say, but for the humble soul. Her teachings preserved the peace of Ekuru, instilling values of harmony and respect. One evening, as Obiageli looked out over the village, she sensed her ancestors' approval. She felt their presence, a quiet reminder of the past and a promise that they would always watch over her. Ekuru prospered, and the spirits of the dead rested peacefully, untouched by mortal greed. Years passed, but the story of the missing ribs of the dead remained. Each generation retold it, passing down Obiageli's courage and the cautionary tale of Azina's ambition. Festivals were held in her honor, with dances, songs, and plays reenacting her journey into the forest. Children would gather by the shrine, lighting candles in honor of the ancestors. Young healers would sing the same songs Obiageli had taught them, praying for protection and peace. In time, her memory became part of Ekuru's spirit, a legend woven into its fabric. Obiageli's story became a foundation of the village's values, shaping future leaders and healers. Each new healer carried her name in their hearts, knowing they, too, were guardians of the souls resting in the earth. They vowed to protect Ekuru's peace and honor those who had passed. Obiageli lived a long and peaceful life, respected and cherished by her people. When she finally passed, the villagers held a great ceremony, singing the songs she had taught them. They laid her to rest with sacred rites, ensuring her soul's journey to Ibilu would be unhindered. The night of her burial, a soft light shone over her grave. The villagers believed it was Chimika, her brother, guiding her spirit to join the ancestors. People left offerings, honoring her memory and celebrating her life as Nne Muo. The villagers knew that Obiageli's spirit would always watch over them, guarding Ekuru even in the afterlife. And whenever a young child asked about her, the elders would smile, knowing the legend of the missing ribs of the dead would live on forever, inspiring bravery, wisdom, and respect. After Obiageli's passing, the village entered a time of reflection. The people missed her deeply, but her teachings endured. The elders soon began searching for a successor, a new healer who would honor Obiageli's legacy and protect Ekuru. Young Ifani, a gentle soul with a gift for sensing spirits, was chosen. He had been Obiageli's apprentice, learning from her since childhood. The elders held a ceremony, bestowing on him the title of Dibia Muo, healer of spirits. He vowed to keep Obiageli's teachings alive and protect Ekuru from dark forces. Ifani was humbled by the responsibility. He took his role seriously, committing himself to understanding the village's sacred traditions. And as he took his first steps as a healer, he often felt Obiageli's spirit guiding him, a presence of calm and wisdom. One night, Ifani had a troubling dream. He saw Azina, the dark priest, standing at the edge of the forest, his eyes filled with vengeance. In the dream, Azina's voice echoed, warning that the curse of the missing ribs was not yet over. Ifani awoke drenched in sweat, his heart racing. Could it be that Azina's spirit had returned, seeking revenge on the village? Ifani consulted the elders, and they reminded him of the old teachings: darkness can be defeated, but if unaddressed, it can return. Haunted by his dream, Ifani knew he had to prepare for whatever was to come. He studied Obiagili's ancient scrolls, learning the deeper mysteries of spirit magic and protection. He gathered sacred herbs, charms, and symbols that would shield the village. In the following days, strange events began to unfold in Ekuru. The village's crops started to wither, and the animals grew restless, as if sensing a presence that didn't belong. The villagers grew fearful, recalling Ifani's warning about the darkness returning. People whispered that Azina's spirit still lingered, feeding on their fear. Ifani performed nightly rituals, chanting songs that called for protection. But the air felt heavy, as though the very land remembered Azina's curse and was reluctant to let go of its shadow. Ifani sensed he was being tested, that his faith and knowledge would be the only way to save Ekuru. Determined, he planned to visit the sacred grove where Obiagili had confronted Azina, hoping to understand the source of the darkness. As night fell, Ifani made his way to the grove. Armed with Obiagili's charms and guided by her spirit, he braved the dense forest. Shadows danced around him, and every step felt like a trial of his courage. He felt the ancestors' eyes upon him, their silent support giving him strength. When he reached the grove, he sensed a dark energy lingering, as though Azina's spirit was trapped there. Ifani began his ritual, drawing symbols in the earth and chanting Obiagili's songs. He called upon the spirits of the ancestors, asking them to cleanse the land of Azina's lingering curse. As he completed the ritual, a gust of wind swept through the grove. He felt a cold presence, Azina's spirit, struggling against the light. Ifani stood his ground, refusing to let fear overcome him. He declared that Ekuru was protected and that Azina's curse would end here. Azina's spirit manifested, a shadowy form filled with anger and regret. His voice echoed through the grove, pleading and demanding, as though he couldn't accept his fate. But Ifani, calm and resolute, continued his chants, his voice unwavering. The spirit of Obiagili appeared beside him, her presence a steady light. She placed a hand on Ifani's shoulder, guiding his chants and lending him her strength. With their combined power, they faced Azina's spirit, binding him and calling upon the ancestors to lay him to rest. Azina's spirit shrieked, dissolving into the earth, finally silenced. The grove grew still, filled with a sense of peace that had been absent for years. Ifani and Obiagili's spirit shared a silent moment of triumph before she. With the final curse lifted, Ifani returned to the village as a hero. The villagers gathered to welcome him back, grateful that he had banished the last remnants of Azina's darkness. The elders praised his courage, naming him the new protector of Ekuru's peace. Ifani knew that his journey as a healer was just beginning. He dedicated himself to continuing Obiagili's work, teaching the villagers to honor their ancestors and live in harmony with the spirits. Under his guidance, Ekuru flourished, and the village knew peace. The land, once haunted by shadows, became a place of light. Ifani's name, like Obiagili's, would be remembered for generations, forever tied to the story of the missing ribs of the dead.